just adjust my view here. So I'm Robin Pfaff, Dr. Robin Pfaff, and this is my friend and colleague, Stephanie Lueras. Is that how you pronounce it, Stephanie?
Excellent, perfect.
Oh, good. We met, back in November, December, on a Zoom call for providers. And I was sharing about my work as a fibromyalgia coach.
Hello.
And Stephanie piped up and said that she is a personal trainer and she has folks that, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little distracted here. She has folks that she works with that have fibromyalgia or chronic illness. And we said, well, we should do something together. So after Christmas, we put our heads together and we came up with this class. And it was very fun because I said to Stephanie, how do you work with someone who has fibromyalgia or chronic illness who comes to you for personal training? And do you want to tell everybody what you said, Stephanie?
Well, when I work with anybody that has any type of ability limitation, illness, or anything that holds them back, I look at what is it that I wanted to hear along my personal journey as I got into movement. Because we know not every day is the same. We know it's not just a straight linear progression forward, that we just keep building, pushing harder. Some days it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, 1 step forward, 5 steps back. You know, it's this great cha-cha that sometimes we are way out of rhythm. And the thing that I always wanted to hear the most is what's possible today.
And when she said that, I said, oh, that is the theme for our class, because that's what people with fibromyalgia and other types of chronic illness have to ask themselves every morning as we assess, how did I sleep? How is my body feeling? What is on my calendar? What is essential to be done today, and what can I let go? And so that's how we got the theme of our class. What is possible for me today? Did you want to add more about that, Stephanie?
And, you know, when we look at this idea of what is possible for me today, we come from this place of not only great compassion for our body and looking at, how do I feel? What are my physical limitations? What are my emotional and mental limitations today? But also, it's a place of accountability too. And that's where my role is with my clients. That's why when we have a relationship where you're entering into that relationship with someone like a fibromyalgia coach, like a personal trainer, there's an understanding that there's an accountability factor here. We're getting really honest with these people. What's going on in our lives? What's going on physically? So when I work with people that have chronic illness, that have an injury, that have something going on, I need people to be really open and honest. It's like, hey, this isn't working. It needs to be tweaked, or I'm just not feeling it. I have clients that will call or text me in very short order of a visit and be like, I just can't do this today. Well, I'm probably not going to let you off the hook with just the straight response of, I just can't do this today, we're going to have a couple more questions attached to that. Well, why can't you do this today? What's going on? Because it might be that your idea of what you can't do today isn't going to happen, but there's probably some other things that we can do. Because especially with movement, we get the idea in our mind that this is what exercise looks like. This is the speed, the intensity, the repetitions that I have to do. And if I can't do this, then I can't do it at all.
Right. And we call that black or white thinking, or all or nothing thinking. And I know with my fibromyalgia clients, especially ladies that have been very active when they were younger or before their diagnosis, they have a lot of shoulds. I should be able to do this. I should be able to do that. Or there's a lot of comparison. Someone I know who's my age is able to do so much more than me. I like to tell this story and I always laugh. When I was able to go to the pool, my warm therapy pool is still closed here in Denver, but hopefully someday it'll reopen. I found that I was at least 15 to 20 years younger than everyone in my class. And for some people, that would be like humiliating or something. But I'm always so grateful just to be in the warm water. I don't care what anybody's age is. There's a gal in there that's in her 90s. And I think, wow, I hope when I'm in my 90s that I'm still coming to the pool. So I just see them as inspirational. And yes, it is kind of sad that I can't keep up with my own age group. But the important thing is for me to move my body. And there's two things that are essential for people that have fibromyalgia. And number one is to improve your sleep. And number two is to move your body. Because when you're dealing with chronic pain with an chronic illness like fibromyalgia or other chronic illnesses, there's this tendency to just stop moving because you don't know if the next movement is going to put you into a flare. It seems like there's nothing that you can do that's safe. And I was telling Stephanie when we first met that I've had a couple of really bad experiences with what I call Nazi exercise leaders that pushed me in a class. One was a yoga class many years ago, and one was a warm water class. They had me, the yoga teacher had me in contortions, and the water class was just pushing the group to do many, 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 many hip repetitions. And I was injured badly from the second pool class that turned into like a 1.5-year saga to get that taken care of. So that's something that is always at the forefront of my mind and with my clients. And I'm sure you hear this too, Stephanie, is that I don't want to injure myself because we know that with chronic illness and with a fibromyalgia body, we're extra sensitive and it takes extra long time to recover. So we're naturally pretty cautious and sometimes defensive about what people might be asking us to do because we know our bodies better than anybody else, right?
Absolutely. And you should be. You are the expert on your body. And
right.
So when we're doing that investigation of what can I do today, and we're in that accountability phase of adapting, well, I can't do this, and looking at, well, maybe I can do this, or what can I do? There's a whole spectrum of weighing,
Exactly.
Is it this option, and what is the consequence of the options? Because it's not just what am I doing today, it's how am I going to feel afterwards?
Right.
How am I
Tomorrow
going to
and the
feel
next
tomorrow?
day.
How am I going to feel 2 days from now? And is this going to put me into a flare?
Exactly. So we are keeping this class short and sweet because we know that folks with fibro and chronic illness can get very weary being on Zoom calls for a really long time. This is going to be our pattern for the next, for today and the next 3 classes is will be, Stephanie and I will be in conversation about a particular issue. You're welcome to put questions in the chat. We'll get to some of them today, and the ones we don't get to today, we'll talk about next week. So I'm going to lead us in a mindfulness practice because getting our mind set in a way that supports our exercise is really valuable. Sometimes I actually do a mindfulness practice after I exercise, but for the sake of this class and for the flow, we're going to do it first. Then Stephanie's going to lead us for just a few minutes in some movement, and then we'll come back together for Q&A for just a few minutes. I forgot to mention at the top of the hour, we are recording this so that you can watch it again, and people who signed up but couldn't be here live can watch it. I think the only people that are being recorded are the people that are talking, but if you're concerned about being on the recording, you can always shut off your video. And when we do the question and answer, we won't be recording. So what I'd like you to do now, we're going to move into a really short meditation that focuses on the breath and helps you get in touch with your body just a little bit. This will just take us a few minutes, and then we'll go straight to Stephanie leading us in movement. So get comfortable in your chair, maybe take a deep breath. If you can reach the floor where you're sitting and put your feet flat on the floor, that's good. And if you can straighten your spine, I mean, it doesn't have to be stiff, but that's good. And I see some of you are already closing your eyes. You know how to do this. This is called anchoring in the breath. And so when you're ready, I just invite you to bring your attention to the area of your nose where your breath is coming in. Just breathe naturally. We're not trying to manipulate the breath or do anything with it today. We just want to notice how the breath enters the nostrils and how it leaves, how the lungs inflate in the back with each inhale and deflate with each exhale. And we're not trying to get anywhere. We're just here together. And it's so good to see all of you with us. Just notice moment by moment, breath by breath. Maybe notice your chest or notice your abdomen. I tend to put my hands on my abdomen when I'm practicing breath work. It reminds me to breathe from my belly. But however you're breathing, you're fine. And you might find that your mind is wandering, thinking about what's for dinner or what else you need to do today or tomorrow. That's okay. Minds are meant to wander. That's what they do naturally. So no worries. Just bring your attention back to your breath. And then this is the anchoring part of this meditation. I want you to just notice where you feel the breath the most. Is it your nostrils? Is it your chest? Is it your abdomen? I'm going to be quiet for just a moment so that you can pay attention to your own breathing. And if you want to, you can repeat breathing in. I know I'm breathing in. And breathing out. I know I'm breathing out. Or you could just say to yourself, breath in, breath out. Breath in, breath out. And you can use this exercise, just that really brief breath in, breath out, to anchor yourself if you're feeling anxious or stressed, or you just want to get grounded. I told Stephanie earlier that I was feeling a little nervous about getting ready for class, so I just did that exercise. And it did help me anchor my breath. You can pay attention to your nose or your abdomen or your chest. And so we'll just take a moment to let it go. I know this was just really brief. Thank you so much for just moving right into this exercise, and just let it go with a cleansing breath and come back to the room when you're ready and open your eyes. And Stephanie's going to share a movement practice with us next. Thanks, ladies.
I don't know about you. I think I needed a little bit of grounding and centering for my mid-afternoon here. I feel pretty good now. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, how we're going to talk about movement over the 4 weeks is we're going to break movement in our bodies down into 4 parts. We're going to talk about cardiovascular movement, and we're going to talk about strength and endurance in breaking the body down into 3 major sections. But today we're going to talk about cardiovascular movement, because it's something that I can cover a little bit quickly, only because it's highly individual, and it's something you really do need to experiment with, and a lot of times work in a small group or one-on-one with someone. Because when you do have any type of barrier with your body, we need to explore how to overcome it. And when we think of cardiovascular fitness, immediately some of the ideas that we get into is it's a high intensity, high movement type of activity. But really, cardiovascular movement is just any type of movement that we're doing, that we're raising our heart rate above that resting heart rate level. Yes, we really could dice this out and get into the American Heart Association recommendations of what is aerobic heart levels and things like that. But what we want to do is just be concerned with just raising our heart rate. And how we raise our heart rate is just moving our body from being completely sedentary. That's it. We do that in a lot of ways. Dr. Robin talked about, the warm water pool, being in the water, swimming. If those are activities that you find are really therapeutic, that you enjoy, then pursue those. Absolutely. I know that for many people, especially with COVID and everything else right now, those have been very restrictive or very limited. I know a lot of people have to make reservations and jump through all these hoops to even get a spot. So now we're trying to seek other ways of getting cardiovascular movement. Unfortunately, when we're doing cardiovascular movement on land, we're taking away that buoyancy and we're adding gravity back into the equation, which puts a lot of stress on our joints. And we're having to figure out how to move our body in a way that makes it comfortable. Anytime we're moving our body in a way that goes to the point of pain, we immediately stop. If we're moving our body to that place of soreness, that's where we really have to evaluate, is this acceptable? And what's the consequence of this level of soreness? Do I know myself well enough that this soreness Is it going to magnify in an hour, tomorrow, the next day, or a week from now? A lot of our basic cardiovascular movement is just getting out and walking. The easiest walking that we can be doing is, my suggestion is, if you have a grassy place. Now, a lot of you right now are in snowy places. You're not seeing a lot of grass. But we talk about getting out into grassy places because you have a spongy surface. It's not level. It's something that you're having to concentrate, to have a little bit of dexterity in watching your terrain. But we talk about walking on grass because you're getting a little bit of sponginess. You're getting some resistance on the off the joints. Or if like you have a school track that has that spongy playground material, or even playgrounds that you can walk around that have that spongy, like cork material that they're using now, like the environmentally friendly stuff. Because so many of our sidewalks are straight concrete, which is very abrasive on our joints. That's why you see a lot of runners run on the street as opposed to the sidewalk. And we think, what are these crazy people doing running on the street when there's a perfectly good sidewalk for them to be on?
So Stephanie, I'm just watching the time. Are we going to practice something today for our cardio?
Yes, in 2 seconds.
Okay, great.
Yep. So because our asphalt is a mixed surface, so we just want to consider the surfaces we're on to get that pressure off our joints. But really, again, that movement is moving any part of our body, and we can be doing that anywhere. We can be doing that in our house. So what we can be doing is walking around our houses, going up and down the stairs, if that is something that is comfortable for you. That can be very hard on the knees and hips. But something that we can also be doing, I'm going to show you a sitting exercise right now, as well as something that you can be doing laying down. So the first thing is, I'm going to tilt my camera. There we go. Is just seated in a chair. Is you can just march, and you can't see my feet. Is you can either be picking up your legs and marching. And if this is too much on the top of the legs, your hips, or your abdomen, all you can be doing is just lifting your toes or lifting your heels, keeping the toes on the ground. So if I turn to the side, you see I'm just lifting my heels. And then the opposing motion is lifting the toes. And so those heels stay on the ground. And then if you're having...
We can do that right now if we want to.
Absolutely. And if you're having sore hips, sore knees, sore ankles, things that we can do with our upper body are just putting our hands on our hips and just doing a gentle rotation from the waist. And just doing as many as is comfortable from side to side. And you don't ever want to extend further than your range of motion is comfortable. And then one thing that gets our blood flowing is extremity movements. So we can be reaching our arms out and in, Or if that full extension is too much, just do part way. Just reach out your elbows to 90 degrees. You can, if your shoulders don't bother you, you can reach up. And you can reach, if straight up is too much, reach forward. You can take that pressure off your shoulders by just reaching forward. Because what we're doing is all we're doing in those movements is getting that blood moving, we're getting that blood flowing and getting things going.
That is really great, Stephanie.
Yep. All those
that feels good to me.
Doing laying down as well. And next week, as we get into a lot of those strength movements on the different section of the body, we're going to get into a lot more concentrated movement on how we adapt those for sitting down and laying down. But really, when we think about that cardiovascular movement, it's what can I do that feels good, that gets my heart going, that gets that blood pumping, that isn't causing pain.
That's perfect. So it's right now 3:31. Stephanie and I can stay on the call. If anybody has questions, comments, you just want to chat with us for a few minutes, we're happy to do that. But if you need to go, that's fine too. We'll turn off the recording.